Hello, beautiful, brilliant black women, goddess born. Let's talk why, in looking at things, I believe that younger people, younger black women and black girls, especially because that's who we center over here, are not trying to be in church. Okay. And I'm going to look at it intellectually for just give me a second, and then we'll get into, me and my perspective, because trigger warning, I've been thinking. Okay, so as a goddess born, I shout out to True Mystique because I just met with her and we did a consultation. She is so awesome, okay? She's helping me to, take my genius zone moments and get it there, get it there. So it makes sense to other people, right? What's in my head. So I, as a goddess born, I am in relationship to the great she, the source, the great black mother, and her goddess sisters. Okay? So let's say that. And because I've grown up in the church and then later I ended up getting a master's in theology, right? Um, I studied these different concepts because it really fucks with me that we have allowed patriarchy to rule us, and they've used religions of different types as a weapon, specifically against, because I center black women and black girls and indigenous women, indigenous girls, specifically against all of us who are preternaturally elemental and goddess born. Okay? So let's get into it. Now, I've studied diverse religions, right? Because theology doesn't just mean one, monotheism, though that was generally my field of study, primarily because 85% of the people that I center see themselves as Christians, as black women, right? And thus they're black girls. And so that's important to me. But I've studied so many different you know religions and belief systems, and my belief system is my relationship again to the great black mother and her goddess sisters. But let's look at this really quick. um I'm going to read this part to you. It says the conclusion to be drawn from this bigger problem of, God being all, y'all male God being all powerful and all loving, um, is this: either God is not all powerful, or he is not all loving, or suffering and evil are either unreal, necessary, or a means to a greater good. Or the whole idea of an all loving and all powerful creator God was a mistake in the first place. Okay? So, but let's get into this part about the free will defense, because that's what people will come up with, is this free will defense, right? Might it not have been possible for God to have created a world in which there was no moral evil because everyone freely chose to do what was right? If such a world were a logical possibility, then God would stand accused of having chosen not to have made it. God's position is defended by what is generally called the free will defense, and it runs like this: if you are to be free to choose to do good, then it must be possible for you to choose to be evil. If the world were to be such that moral evil were made impossible, then it makes no sense to speak of having free moral choice. But having free will is an essential condition of a moral life. Therefore, there needs to be the possibility of moral evil in order for people to have free will and to live morally. So, when it comes down to the question as to why less and less black women and black girls are attending church, I'm going to pose this. I raised such a young black woman. She's 24 now. And um, my reasoning for her not going to, uh, you know, churches in the sense that, in the way that I grew up in churches, is simply this. For me specifically, I'm talking about the black church, but we could say the Catholic Church, the Protestants, we could say the Episcopals. I don't care what you call it. Okay, you know, these groups that believe um, that God is the creature who created, the earth or whatever. Um, I don't feel like church is a safe place for black women and black girls. Okay? It is, to me, a place in which we are taught that we are simply vessels to be used and abused and discarded by specifically the males in our lives, whether they are our fathers, brothers, sons, cousins, uncles, or whatever. And that because we have a relationship as black women and to the God of the Bible doesn't mean that the people who we have created as potentates, in other words, saying that because we're in a patriarchy, males, because they have a penis, should lead us, um, is not enough as far as I'm concerned. Because they don't, not only do they not lead us, they choose to be morally evil. And what pisses me off is that we uphold them as some sort of God on earth. Because in the Bible, there are areas in which it tells us that we have to go through men in order to have a relationship with the God that we say we believe in. Okay, now we can get into these theological points, but the bottom line is we have a bunch of predators and pedophiles in church. And I don't want my daughter there. And neither do a lot of black women, because some of us have gone through that, have gone through men, deacons, just whoever they are, pastors, as Miss D would say, um, um, acting as if we are prey and we are there for them to abuse, misuse, steal from, and then we're supposed to protect their image of them being great people and the church being this and that. No, it has not been safe for us. Just like being in relationship, and I always say this: I am not in community with black men. One of the reasons I'm not is because they are not safe for black women and black girls. So I don't really give a fuck what people try to tell me about this, that, and the other about the church and all of this. It is not safe. It is not safe for us as black women who are single black mothers to be handing our children over to coaches, because what do we find out? They end up being grooming our children and taking advantage of them mentally, emotionally, sexually, and physically. And that'd be no. I'm not going to be doing that shit.